Hi guys, welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be showing you how you can color grade and correct in Hitfilm 4 Express. Just before we start this video, I want to make sure that you know I am not in the editing workspace, meaning you can see I have a bigger sort of screen here, and my timeline and the whole workspace is different. On Windows there'll be this small grid-like button here, and just select compositing if you want to go back to that workspace. On a Mac you can select View, Workspace, and whatever workspace you want. Alright guys, so once you've got your clips imported into your timeline, we can actually start grading. So how do you grade? Well, the first step is to add contrast, and there are a whole ways of adding contrast into your image. We're going to show you a few of them right now. So the first way is to go into your effects panel and look for a brightness and contrast effect. Just drag that down onto your video, and then if your image is too bright or too dark, you can correct for that just by using the brightness. And you can just turn up the contrast as much as you want. Try not to overdo the contrast, but try to make sure that your background is separated from your subject nicely. Alright, so now we've got a punchier sort of look, and it looks much nicer. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is actually make the flowers stand out from the green background. And to do this, we're going to use the hue, saturation, and lightness effect. This way, with contrast, we can contrast between the flower and the background, and it will look more cinematic. So in our hue, saturation, and lightness, we can change the master saturation, etc. But right now, we're just going to go down into our green and change the saturation, or how colorful the greens are. Just the greens. We can make them completely black if we want, but I'm just going to desaturate them quite a lot, but they still retain their color, sort of. And we're going to go into our yellow, and we're just going to saturate them slightly. Also, we might, not huge shift, but we might lighten the yellows just slightly and darken the greens. Actually, I'm going to get rid of this lighting. I'm just going to darken the greens. Alright, so this is another way that we've added contrast into our scene. It's not necessarily contrast through the whole image, but we've still added contrast into our video, and now it looks much better. Alright, so there's one last way that we can add contrast, and that's by not just the colors in the scene, but by the luminance. So if we drag something like the levels histogram effect onto our video, and then we can start to edit this. So down in our levels histogram, we can see we've got this histogram, and just what the histogram does is, this is how much of the color, and this is from the very dark end of the image to the very light end. If there's lots of dark areas in the image, we'll get loads of spikes around here. And if there's loads of light stuff around the image, we'll get loads of spikes around here. If there's loads of stuff that's around the middle, we'll get spikes around here, sort of thing. And this is how we can sort of view our image. Alright, so we can change all sorts of things like contrast in here, but we can look at it from a more natural perspective here. So what we're using levels histogram for is to adjust luminance for certain colors. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply certain colors and add certain colors to the shadows, and add another color to the highlights. So to pick two contrasting colors, be it blue or yellow, red or green, or something like that. And what you're going to do is you're going to have to add blue or some color to the shadows, and yellow or some other color to the highlights. So the way to do this is with these input, output, etc. settings. The gamma is the most obvious, and it just lifts the gamma, which is the middle section, as we can see here. Input black will remove blue from the shadows, although there's no blue in the shadows at this moment, well, not much anyway. We can sort of see what that does. Output black will add blue into the shadows, which is where we want to go. So I'm just going to add, say, 0.5 maybe 0.8 sounds good. And now the output white will remove blue from the highlights, and input white will add blue to the highlights. So we're just going to remove some blue from the highlights here. Alright, and this way we've also added some contrast into our image. Alright, so not only can you use the levels histogram to do this thing, we can also use the curves effect. So simply drag your curves effect onto your video. I'm just going to turn my levels histogram off at the moment. And when we open our curves, we come up with a grid-like diagram. You may need to extend this to see the whole diagram properly. And this works in a different way to levels histogram. The way it works is that on this scale, you have the lightness of the original image. So pretty much anything that's exactly in the middle falls exactly in the middle on the original image, and anything that's completely black falls completely black, and white, completely white. It's not like a levels histogram that's all jumpy depending on what your image is. It's all flat, and you can edit it more easily and see the changes you've made more easily. And this line up here, this axis, the y-axis, represents the brightness of your new image. So for example, if I want to change something that's middle brightness of the original image, and I want it to change it to 3/4 sort of brightness, I can do that by changing the middle brightness and dragging it down to the 3/4 brightness, like so. Or I can change it up to make it more vibrant. Or say, we can even go to maybe the lighter parts of the original image. Let's just reset this, and let's go to, say, the lighter parts of the original image. And I can make the lighter parts of the original image darker, or I can make the darker parts of the original image lighter. We can do the opposite effect, for example, the darker parts of the image darker, and the lighter parts of the image lighter, and it works in this way for the whole colors. We're going to do the similar sort of thing that we did before, but we're going to go into our blue channel here, and for example, in the darker parts of the image, say 3/4, we're going to make more blue, just by dragging it up, and in the lighter parts of the image, we're going to get rid of some blue. And actually in the pure shadows, I'm actually going to lift the blue up a bit too. So these two effects do very similar sort of things. Alright guys, so that's pretty much how you add contrast into your scene. Now we're going to talk about a little bit about correction in your footage, and also setting a mood or a tone for your image. So to do this, we're going to move to our second clip here. This is an artwork I made. It's just a bit of a sculpture, not the best, but I've used this because I want to correct this footage, and I want to give it a certain mood. So originally this wall, as you can see, is completely white, but when recording the footage, I white balanced wrong, meaning that now everything has a slightly yellow tint. So we can change that by going to color correction, and we can get our white balance and just drag it onto our video. Now we can select a color just by dragging this and selecting a color in our video that is not completely white in the actual video, but in real life should be completely white, such as this piece of paper. And now we have a corrected clip. What you can do if you want to reset is just turn off the color, the white balance, and re-drag the pointer. That way you're moving it from the original color again. Alright, so now that we've done some basic correction, you can also choose any of these just to correct your video, such as these auto ones. But now we're going to talk about adding a sort of mood into our footage. So I want to go for a sort of dark and grimy sort of look, because it goes with the texture of the artwork too. I'm going to add this brightness and contrast, and I'm going to turn down the brightness and really give the contrast a little bit of a boost. And this way we've got a really dark and grimy image. If we zoom into our video here, you see there's a lot of contrast between the different bits of the cardboard, and I really like that because it gives the mood I sort of want. Alright, so now I'm going to apply the hue, saturation and lightness effect, similar to as we did in this video. So in the hue, saturation and lightness effect, I sort of want to bring out those cyan doors. I really like them, so I'm going to boost the saturation and lightness of these a little bit. And then I think I'm going to desaturate the reds a little bit, just to give it a sort of colder feel. Alright, now we're going to go and do our last step, which is levels histogram or curves effect. So I'm going to choose the levels histogram. Let's just try that out. I'm going to apply the effect onto my video, and I'm not going to mess with any of the stuff for RGB, but I'm going to go straight into my blue, and I want this to be a sort of cold image, so I'm going to put quite a lot of black into the shadows, and I'm going to get rid of some in the highlights just to make that contrast, and I'm going to perhaps even lift a bit in the gamma, which is the middle section, just to make this a lot more blue. And you see that now, although this effect is sort of extreme, and I wouldn't usually grade a clip this harshly, you can see that the difference being made by all the different effects we apply to it. First the white balance, then the brightness and contrast, the hue, and the levels histogram. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope this helps you out. Remember that grading is a long, lengthy process. The more you practice at grading, the more you'll get better at it, and the more you have an eye for what mood you want to to convey to the audience, and the more you know what you're doing when you're grading, the more it'll help the actual grade. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. If you want more of these, obviously like, comment for what you want, and subscribe. I'll see you guys later. Bye.